What up? Welcome back to the podcast. Y'all are here joined by everybody's favorite uncle, Uncle Don Don, and I have my wonderful brother and co-host, Paul, aka
Mr. Qualified, per usual. How y'all doing?
Amen. Um, so yeah, we as always just want to check in with each other and see how we are doing. Currently, I am recovering. This episode is brought to you by electrolytes.
I was gonna say you look a little exhausted there, brother.
That's the nice way to put it. I'm yesterday is still weighing on me because yesterday ended today.
So
Ooh.
yesterday is today.
Yesterday is today. When I looked down at my watch last night, this morning, and it said 0035, and I did not compute that meant it was 35 minutes into the next day. I was like, okay, I don't know what that is, and just kept going about my day. And then I looked at my phone a couple hours later, and it was 3:30 a.m.
Wait, is your watch on military time?
No, that's what somebody else said. My watch is on not military time, but it still says the time. So it would say AM PM, but it goes 12 to 12. So it'll start over.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not like 1837 or something, it just double zero and then the time and then it says one. So
Yeah.
yeah, I was just like, oh, now look at all these zeros. And yeah, then I looked at my phone. The next time I saw that, it said it was like 3:30 a.m. Um,
For clarity.
yeah, so hey.
Right. Random. Do you prefer military time?
No,
Okay.
no, I don't like military time. As a millennial, I can still tell time because
Right.
I was talking to, my niece and nephew's or even my niece and nephew, but that generation where they Gen Z, if the time is not on there, I had them look at the clock and they was like,
You can do it.
I'm
Oh,
like, please tell me you know how to tell time. Like,
that is so bad.
I never, I never thought I would live in a world that people would pause when they looked at a clock to be like, what time is it? But no, even coming from a military parent and having military all around me, and I like math. But I do not like military time because if I want to look down and see what time it is, I do not want to have to carry the one, count on my fingers, and say, "Oh, it's actually 7:30." Like I hate it. I hate it.
I don't get how people don't know how to read clocks though, because I'm just remember in school, I had to know what that clock was saying. I had to know how much time I had left in this class. We can just look down on our phones now.
You showing your age because now some school, I mean, I think some schools still have clocks on the wall, I would hope. But
They
now
got clocks on there?
everything is digital. So one of the high schools I was working with recently, they had bells and everything in the hallways, but everything is digital. It looks like a shot clock, like if you if you play basketball, like the classrooms, they do countdowns on like Zoom now and whatever the smart boards are, Promethean boards. They've got that time on there. So yeah, it's not it's the smart boards that you can like tap on. Everything is digital. So yeah, we could look at the second hand and be like, oh, okay. And God forbid they have the clocks that don't have all the numbers on them. So it's a 12, 3, 6,
Three.
and 9, or maybe just that. And they look at it and it's like, is this a compass?
Is
Yeah.
that a cross? It's a compass.
Yeah, we're
Okay,
failing people. The
we
the
are.
world is falling apart. We are expecting people to keep the world going and they can't tell time. Something ain't right.
Yeah, these supposed to be our future leaders, and Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Oh, shambles, shambles. Okay, but anyway, back to this long experience that you had yesterday. Well, today, technically, because yesterday is today. But I think that's funny because as we get older, right? Obviously, the idea of going out and at least for me, some people at least still in my age range. Maybe I don't know if 30 really changes it for everybody, But these late 20s, I think people still trying to hold on to the glory days. I let go of them a long time ago. You're not finna have me. I don't. If you get me out, really, that's that's something in and of itself. If you get me to go out, but to have me out 2, 3 in the morning by 12:30, 1 o'clock, I'm already half asleep wherever we are. So, how did you even survive being out till 3:30?
So I just kept telling myself, well, first of all, I didn't know I was going to be out till 3:30. Also, I did not know it was 3:30. Okay. When you got a little friend named Don, he just get the pouring and you get the stand. So it happens. But no, I can do it on vacation. I was just in the DR. Matter of fact, I was out with my DR friends that I met there. They was here and was like, oh, hey, we're gonna be in town. Let's go out. But on vacation, completely different person. Donald is outside ready to go, rallying 12, 13, 14 hours sleep. What's a nap? We're gone, right? When Donald is at home, call me Mr. Rogers, okay? I'm gonna change my shoes, I'm gonna put on my cardigan, I'm going to my kitchen. Okay. I'm not doing nothing. I was under the pretense yesterday was going to be a nice little cocktail hour moment. Boom. But to fill the day, we said, oh, well, while we're waiting on our other friend to get off work, let's go grab something to eat and maybe get a drink. That turned into a marathon because Chicago in the summer is a marathon if you so choose to be. So I had to be in vacation mode yesterday, even though I was at home. So yeah, I did not know the day would unravel the way that it did.
Mm.
So we went from, the club, another club, bar, like everything was we just kept going to different places and it was fine. So if you pace it out, you drink some water in between, which I did not, you would be fine. I didn't have a whole lot to drink early, but like I said, Mr. Julio popped up and shot a clock. Oh my God, when I tell you these shots was like this big, I said, what? I need an adult. I'd push one to Epi and give me a liver stat. Like,
Yeah, Mr. Julio is Mr. Julio. It's always a good time with Mr. Julio. It is always a good time. Never fails. One of my preferences and choices, me personally. But yeah, that Mr. Julio makes for an easy night if you gonna drink in excess. I would say. I think so.
yeah, easy night, but let's call it a little rough morning.
Good morning.
Good things take time, just like recovering.
No, that makes sense. But I was on Twitter this week and I came across this what's this picture from the movie. Pretty sure this intergalactic. Yeah, whatever the movie Kid Cudi was, the animated movie that Kid Cudi was in. I think this came out in like 2022. But anyway, I thought it was a really interesting quote, and I'm curious what your perspective or initial response to it might be. So the quote is, love is the easiest thing in the world when it happens by accident, but it doesn't get real until you do it on purpose.
Ooh, okay.
The face I
Love,
yeah.
repeat that one more time for the people, more so me, because yes.
Yes. Love is the easiest thing in the world when it happens by accident, but it doesn't get real until you do it on purpose.
Mm. Call me Mary J. Where's the real love? Yes. Uh-huh. That's yeah, you own to something right there. That's a cool.
No, so when I was reading, I'm like, dang, I'm like, I think we all could agree that love is a spectrum, but I think that I never I never thought about the easiness that comes with love when you're not trying. Like a lot of people may say, like, oh, I wasn't looking for something, and then this amazing person just popped up. So there's this aspect that there can be an easiness that comes when you're not just pushing yourself to find love. But I think it just shows the layers of love. And I think it shows kind of the full depth of the spectrum because it can start out very easy and it can be very easy to fall in love, or you have people that fall hard or fall quick or whatever the case may be. But I think in terms of it getting real when you do it on purpose, there's just a certain threshold where like when you add intentionality with love, it
Mhm.
becomes real, yes, but it also becomes very difficult. And not difficult because the act of love per se is difficult, but I think it's kind of like what it requires to consistently do this act intentionally and
Mhm.
healthily. I think that's what makes it real and what can make it difficult. But I was just like, yeah, that's a doozy. I hope people get the message. Message. Hope people get
Message.
it.
For whatever reason, that question just stressed me the hell out. That wasn't even a question. That quote just stressed me the hell out. Like I'm over here like
What's the stress part? What's stressing you out?
the real love part of it because that requires work and like you said intentionality and time, and unfortunately I look at everything on a time clock, probably the same time clock the kids are learning with in school. But my time clock is that everything won't exist forever. I love
Mm.
living in the present. I do. I try to live in the present as much as possible. If you let me think about something and you let my mind take over, it's low key not a good situation for me. So I have to actively combat that. So if we put that into the context of love, while I have never been in love, when I say that to people, they're like, "What?"
That
No,
is interesting. That is interesting.
yeah, especially coming from me. Like I'm a lover, right? Like that's just me. I got a lot of love to give, but I have not been in love before.
Mm.
I don't think I've gotten to that point. So in terms of, let's say, dating and being connected to people and stuff, I see it as a temporary thing. I believe in unconditional love and support and all of that, but if we talking like intimate partner relationship, in my near 34 years of life, it's all been temporary. I haven't had my longtime person or a longtime person. And some of that is by choice, some of it is by circumstance. So I'm socialized in my head to think that this person is going to be temporary. My friends, I feel like, are going to be lifetime, but my person feels very temporary. So when that does happen, I'm going to be like, whoa, somebody shaking the table. I'm going to call you and be like, hey, Wu-Tang Keith Lee, I need help. Like, seriously.
Wu
Yeah.
Tang Keep Lee is crazy. I mean, it tracks. I am giving that today. But that is interesting. What's the difference for you? I feel like this is an age-old question, but what is the difference in love and in love for you? And is there a difference in how you see that from the perspective of what you give versus the perspective of what you receive?
Wow. My brain cells don't compute enough today to answer that question for you because it's so hard for me to answer because people are like, well, what I've been asked this before, like, what's really the difference? I think to love and to be in love, like love is around like having love for somebody. There's like a focused, intentional care and concern for somebody. And I do think that that could be shared on some reciprocity stuff, right? But in love is, I don't want to inflate this and like romanticize it, but I feel like for me, in love is a certain indescribable feeling and connection that if you see like colored gases and smoke come together and they just like do this,
Mhm.
that is in love. It's
Mm.
no questions asked. It's the unconditional support is that you feel at peace and at ease when somebody is around. People can argue that you have that when you love somebody, but you can have that with multiple people at the same time. For me, I don't think that I could be in love with multiple people at the same time. There's this one person that I just like always is top of mind and just all of these things. And it's hard for me to articulate that, one, because it ain't happened. And two, because you can poke holes into that and say, like, well, this exists on the love side, but uh-oh. But the in love part of it, oh, They've been getting real honest and raw down on these last couple episodes, from the do-rag to the hangover to hey, take me as I am, okay? But no, the in love part of it, I just feel is a certain deeper connection that it feels very magnetic and people are drawn to each other. And I don't know if that's realistic, but that's the way that I see it. So when I do like somebody, legitimately like somebody, I start to feel that magnet get a little closer. And then my temporary brain says, well, they're not going to be here in 3 months. So don't even worry about it. And then they aren't in here in 3 months. So then I go back to the same cycle and then we have this conversation. So
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think I if I was to look back at the last decade, I mean, I could include high school, but when I look back at the last decade for sure, or since high school, if we'll do that, I I don't know. I didn't realize I had as much like relationship history. And I think that a lot of at least a lot of my relationships in high school, I felt like were very intentional and very serious. I don't feel like I had a very like I had a long standing relationship in high school that went mostly from like my sophomore year to my senior year for the most part. So, which has typically also been the case with me. And that's kind of interesting because you talked about it being temporary. I'm such a, I was so committed and so connected to the idea of a long term relationship that that's kind of all I've ever done. I don't think I've had a actual relationship that has been less than 2 years. Like anytime I've been in a relationship, it's been two plus. And I think that as I'm looking back on it now, the idea of the love and in love thing is so interesting because I do agree with you that in love, I don't feel like I've ever seen anybody really put in love into a two sentence like statement that just makes sense. I feel like you can go a million different ways with it, but it is this idea of I think the biggest piece is that kind of like safety that you feel with somebody and them being top of mind in the sense of that connection and how they are intertwined with you. I would also add, I think the level of what you are willing to sacrifice also can play a role in being in love versus love. Because you can love somebody down, but you may not necessarily feel compelled to go to a certain length. But it doesn't mean
Mhm.
you love them less. It just
Right.
there's a cap, if you will. But for somebody that you were in love with, like that threshold is almost movable. Even if you don't think it will be, but like it's movable because there's always a reason why that sacrifice will make sense if you're in
Mhm.
love with that person. So I I definitely think it's I definitely think it's interesting, but I also think it's funny how nobody can really put it into a concise like statement and articulate it like, efficiently because yeah, it also just depends on how you define it. People define it very differently as well. But with love and in love and intentionality and all the things that come with that, what do you think are some of the common mistakes that are made in love? Or what do you feel like are some mistakes that you have made when it comes to love, if you feel like you've made them at all?
I don't know that I've necessarily made mistakes when it comes to love. Well, if we're talking in love, I ain't been there yet. So perfect score. I haven't made any mistakes, right? But I think if we are talking just love in general, common mistakes is that love excuses all for some reason. Like you go into like some blind love and people accept whatever treatment or things that you would want that don't match up. Like that's not love. If you love me, you won't do these things to me or to cause harm or to whatever it is. So when you get in like tough situations in relationships, like domestically, like that's not love. It's funny you say this. I just had this conversation with my niece. She's 17. And I said, this is very random. I said, hypothetically, what would you do if you were in a relationship and your partner put their hands on you? Like, she was like, well, it depends. And I was like, ooh, wrong answer. Because again, my little plug thug of a niece, she was like, "You put your hands on me, we going back and forth." Like she got an arm on her too. She can swing. So I mean, she can do some damage. But if you were starting the conversation off with "it depends,"
Mm.
that's not love. Because I said if somebody loves you, like legitimately loves you, and they are verbally abusive to you or they put their hands on you, they don't love you. You don't do that to people you love. I don't do that to people I love. Let me speak for myself. And that does not fit my definition of love. So I don't think love is toxic. I think um, a common mistake is seeing that like blind faith into love. They're like, oh, they love me, but you know, and you can find excuses for things. If you think things are toxic, I think that's wrong. I think another common mistake is love being one-sided, right? Because if you are people say like in my world, where you have a lot of love to give, you might not require that same amount of love back because you were doing it because you want to.
Yeah.
But if you aren't getting any version of that back, that's a mistake. Love is not one-sided. You can love for somebody, you know, and do that, but at the same time, you still have to be refueled on the love tip. So I think those are mistakes. But I don't know. I guess a mistake that I have made though is maybe not allowing myself to be loved. Wow, let's talk to
Mm.
Wanda about that one. uh yeah, because I've always had a complicated relationship with control.
Mm.
So I like to be in control, and I think of in a lot of ways, but in one regard, because I am in control, it means I try to control my emotions, and those are things that you can't really control per se. So like I get heavily rooted in logic.
Mm.
Things have to be logical for me. I think the opposite of logic is emotion. And that's not something that I can control. So I will be as guarded as possible when I'm meeting people, especially if I think I like you.
Yeah.
I don't want to open up that because then it's a floodgate of me being some damn songbird. You know, I'm just like, love me every day. Like that's not it. So yeah, there's a couple mistakes and then something else sprinkled in there. I think that answered your question.
Yes. Yeah, it did. I think another mistake with love is the idea that love is enough. I think that people take the construct of love and it's like, well, I love you. And if whatever it means for you to love a person or whatever your definition of love is, I feel like there, are people that kind of look at it like, well, if I love you or if we love each other, that should be enough to trump every misunderstanding, every miscommunication, every, you know, aspect of pain, whatever the case may be. And to a degree, love can prevail, right? Like love can be strong enough to push you through certain things, but
Mhm.
I don't think it is enough if love is what the fallback is on and there's no goal or there's no desire to change because that love also can't be the same. So I think the mistake is that like how love looks at a certain stage, I think it's unrealistic to expect that stage to carry you through the different phases of life that you gonna have with a partner, especially if it's long term. So, of course, not everybody gets to the place where they see those different layers of it, but I think love being enough is considered a mistake. But also, I think love just accounts for mistakes, to be honest, because love is not perfect. So I think depending on what your perspective is, uh, when you make the decision to love or when you accept, you maybe it's not your decision, but when you accept that you do love somebody, um, you kind of it was funny. I was having a conversation with a friend and she was talking about how she's dating this guy, but there's a disconnect in the sense of what she feel like she may be capable of and what she thinks he's capable of. And
Okay.
we were talking about some things. I think I got to a point where I asked her, I was like, do you have the capacity for him not to be perfect or for him not to be where you may want him to be right now? Because you can want something from a person, right? But ultimately, if they aren't exactly at that place right now, but they have a desire to get there, that's going to come with some mishaps, if you will. Like they aren't going to handle every conversation perfectly. They aren't going to handle every situation perfectly because ultimately they're still learning. Like we're always learning, but you're still learning a person. So you, as the person looking at this other person, do you have the capacity for them to make mistakes and you not judge them based off of those mistakes or feel like, oh, well, if they make a mistake, this isn't going to work? Because if that's the case, I think that's more on the person to remove themselves and say, hey, I'm not in the space to really allow you the room to make mistakes and grow. Or um I'm not giving you the chance to make mistakes and be able to learn from them without me kind of make like having something in my head of what this mistake already means.
Yeah.
So I think that I think that love should account for the mistakes that come with somebody learning you. And then that just comes down to communicating through that process and helping a person ultimately do that. But those will kind of be my two things. But it's hard because I think love it's hard to say mistakes in love because love is so weird and wonky in its own right, and you can't make a lot of sense of it half the time. So I think mistakes are a given. So as much as we can talk about things that can be mistakes, I think it's kind of all accounted for if you are looking at love from a genuine and pure standpoint, in my opinion. But yeah, yeah, man, love is love at the end of the day.
Love is love.
Love is love. But yeah, well, we'll end with these would you rather questions. Neither of us know the would you rather questions we are gonna ask the other. So this should be entertaining.
Yeah, I'm actually going to let you lead this first. I want to see where your mind is going.
Okay. Do I want to start off kind of strong here? Nah, I'll start off like
Actually, I lied. Let me start since we just started with love or we're wrapping up with love. Would you rather go on 150 dates in 1 year or be with the next person that you go on a date with for a lifetime? Are you a gambling man?
150. Yeah, honestly, I think I'm gonna take the latter. I'm gonna just be with the next person I go on a date with for a lifetime because 150 dates is crazy. First off, that's just about little under half the year, which means this quick math may not come out right away, but that sound about like a date or two at least every week. And it seems like I'm gonna be paying for it. No, I'm not doing 150 dates in a year. So I'm not thugging out with whoever that next person is because that 150 ain't about to see me.
Yeah, I'm with that one. I would probably have to agree that the next person I go on a date with would just have to be my forever person. But if I can think outside the box for a second, who said that 150 dates had to be with 150 different people?
Very true. I thought about that. So I did think
Right.
about that. I did think about, but at that point, if it's with relatively, if it's with a short number, or if it's 150 dates of the same person, it might
Yeah.
as well be the second one anyway.
Right. So in that regard, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, no, sign me up for the next person to be forever because 150, I don't have that much conversation. I wouldn't want to go on 15. So I have gone on probably 15, so I should shut up. But
Would you rather not be able to control your laughter or not be able to control your tears?
oh, let me not control my laughter because if I'm walking around like sadness from inside out, like I can't. I've already had my little bout of depression where I was just crying at the drop of a dime. If I had to do that 24/7, and you like, oh, hey, we about to, go to the game and we gonna see this, and somebody, shoot a free throw, and I'm like, yeah, like no, we're not. No, just giggle, giggle, ha ha. Let's do that for the rest of my life.
That's real. That's kind of easy. I wouldn't want to not be able to control my tears. That's crazy.
Mm-mm. And then you would be crying at like inopportune times, but also you would be laughing at inopportune times, like I don't know, a funeral. Like
Yeah.
everybody else is sad, and you like, sad. Like I wouldn't. I probably could get away with that though. Um, hmm. Would you rather be filmed 24/7 or have somebody have unlimited access to your search history?
That's tough.
The hesitation is wild. You just told on yourself. Hmm. Big
Uh,
computer, y'all. No, I'm like, what would you do?
search history. Yeah, I don't want to be filmed 24/7.
I also want to be on reality TV anyway, so like I'm gonna go with the filming 24/7 over the search history. Not that my search history is terribly wild, but I don't need everybody in my business. But also my search history is all over the place. I've searched some risque things that we won't talk about, and I've also researched underwater volcanoes. So it's just like, what do you do with your free time? You know?
Yeah, it depends. How much do you want to comb through? Is really what that's gonna come down to. But
Right.
I guess if I know I'm being filmed, maybe because I'm gonna just cater to knowing that I'm on camera.
You'll forget though, because at some point it becomes background noise. So when you go and dig in your nose and flick it somewhere, the world has seen it, you know?
Look at this crazy.
You-
Yeah, that's a sick one. That's a sick one right there. Another sick one for you though. Would you rather give up your favorite food forever or give up sex?
Um, I like to eat food, to put that into context, first of all. Food is a fantasy for me. I also have given up sex before. I've been abstinent, so it wasn't that hard. But nom nom nom, I want to eat food.
This can be my last one. Depends on if you have another one, but this can be my last one. Would you rather know the date of your death or the cause of your death?
Wow, that was my last one for you. When you said morbid, and I was
Yeah.
like, I wonder if he's gonna ask this. So I guess we ended on the same one. Do I ask that again? Because now you got me
Okay.
confused.
Would you rather know the date of your death or the cause of your death?
The date of my death, the cause of my death. I would rather know the cause of my death because to the earlier point that I hope still makes it into this episode as I look at everything temporary. So I know that I'm not gonna be here forever. I don't want to live my life on the clock is running out.
Yeah.
I want to maybe know how I'm gonna happen. So if I in that situation, I'm like, heard you was gonna get hit by a bus. I'm like, damn, let me not go to the corner. You know, I can maybe do that. But if you say, oh well, you gonna expire at 83 on this date, I'm like, well, let me pack everything in before then. So yeah, I'd rather know the cause than the time. What about you?
Yeah, definitely the cause. That's been another episode of the Just Checking In podcast. And Wu Tang Keith Lee feels like this episode had great vibes, a lot of good laughter in here today. We established that we are not leading the youth correctly. They do not know how to tell time if it's not digital. We talked about love and love is love and we love love. And then yeah, we touched on these would you rather's, which I think were pretty good. Those are some good would you rather's, actually. Actually, it
Yeah.
wasn't it wasn't as bad as we thought. But all those things considered, Wu Tang Keith Lee gives this episode 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. Really good. Definitely will come back. Definitely will come back and visit again for sure.
And the crowd goes wild.
We need a sound effect. I want that. We need a sound effect in there. But yeah, we will. We'll get it in there. Until then, until next time, we'll catch y'all next week. Peace.